my diplomas. I am Irem and I am freshman in this year, and also I am from Turkey. I will be the host of this podcast. Today our guest is Lindsay Marino. Lindsay is the director of the Phillips Museum of Art. How are you today?
I'm doing great. Thanks so much for having me. I really am excited to be here and talk about the museum.
We are excited too, and we want to learn something about you deeply. And we have some questions for you.
Wonderful.
Yeah. First of all, can you explain what is your role at F&M College as a director of the Phillips Museum of Art?
Right. So as a director, we're a really small team, small but mighty, I like to say. So really we work together to create exhibitions. So we have new exhibitions every semester. We also have a really large permanent collection that we take care of. So we're creeping up on almost 15,000 objects in our permanent collection. It really runs, from antiquity all the way up to modern and contemporary art. So we're taking care of those and stewarding them, creating exhibitions and working with faculty and students to help supplement the curriculum, where we're creating workshops so you can work directly with the artwork.
Oh my god, it is such a good work actually. If you are interested in art, it is such a good work to do something.
Yes.
Could you tell us about your background and how you come to your current role as the director of Phillips Museum of Art?
Sure.
At Franklin and Marshall College?
Yeah, so my background is actually in anthropology. So my degree is all in anthropology and museum professions. My graduate degree is with a combination of anthropology and museum studies. So it was really fun classes to take. And I started off working at the National Archives. I was working there in DC when I was going to school, and eventually made my way to a couple of museums along the way. And the Newseum, which was in Washington DC, and it had to do with journalism and US history and freedom of speech. And then moved to Houston and worked at the Museum of Fine Arts down there, working with the curatorial department and registration. So kind of the behind the scenes and the exhibition side of it. Before moving back up here to Pennsylvania, where I'm from originally, and I started here as the collections manager of the Phillips Museum, and have now the collections manager and the director.
Oh my god, it's so nice, and you have a diverse background about this topic. It's such a good thing. And also I am wondering that which college did you graduate from?
I went to Bloomsburg University, which is a state college here in Pennsylvania, and then for my graduate I went to George Washington University.
And what sparked your interest in the art? And when you were a child, what kind of profession did you want to have in the future? Are you in a different field now compared to your past desires and goals?
I would say it's very similar. I always knew that I loved museums and history, and I wanted to be an archaeologist and work in Egypt. So it has sort of evolved from archaeology to really be interested in material culture and culture in general, and then working with anthropology. You're able to sort of combine all of those interests into museum work, which is really fun.
Yeah, and did you have a chance to have been in Egypt before or not?
No. No, I wish. I mean, I have you?
No. Unfortunately. This is my first experience being abroad.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I have never been to Egypt, and that would be a dream of mine, though. I mean, I think as I grew, my interests grew and when you learn, it's almost like mummies in Egypt and ancient Egypt was one of those first things that you learn about when you're young, and that's where I got the bug.
Oh. One day maybe you can have. Why not?
Maybe one day.
Yeah, why not? And could you share a defining moment in your career that inspired you to pursue museum work?
So, I mean, I would say I knew what I wanted to go to school for, but I didn't know how I was going to use that degree. And a big thing that my parents had always said to me was, follow your bliss, but find a way to make a living. And so by exploring what options anthropology gave me, there are a lot of paths you can take, but because I was so inspired by material culture, and I had really wonderful professors in my undergraduate career that pushed me towards finding a way to utilize my degree and my passions and put them together. So I would say probably undergraduate classes. Yeah.
Also, I understood that you had a good community about your future projects, your like supportive people, because like I'm thinking about in my country, if I say my family I want to work in museum in the future, they would say that, oh my god, you need to find like a better job, because they believe that like being doctor, being professor is like more common in my country, and it is like being away from your comfort zone, and it is like such a brave thing to do. So
I don't know if it's brave, because when you follow, you know, your passions and what you're really passionate about, but I completely agree. I think that that's a really common thing. So finding professors, finding a support network that can help you be successful, and you set yourself up for those successes, it becomes a really fulfilling career.
Actually, I think in the US, I noticed that professors, people in here are very supportive about everything, and it is so good for me, because when I'm compared to Turkey, like it is like a basic things you can do as a girl. It's hard to pursue your desires. So
I understand.
Yeah.
So when coming here, do you think that the way that you felt about your career path before coming to the US and before coming to F&M, do you think that it will change and as you grow here?
Actually, I was like you, and I decided to make a major in business and psychology, and I did something like in my high school about business. I opened like a non-profit organizations like that, and I came here. I didn't change my mind, but at F&M we have so many options, like about courses, about clubs. We can reach every place and every topics that we need. So maybe in the future it can be changed, but today I feel that okay, this is the right place to follow my dreams.
Yeah, and I would say because it's a liberal arts campus, we might be a museum and you might have a major that's completely different. You might still intersect a lot with the museum or other arts on campus because that liberal arts education, and it really can expand horizons.
Yeah, that's why I applied for the F&M, because we have so many options, and especially for students.
Right.
And coming to the other questions, as the director of the Phillips Museum, what are your main responsibilities in a day?
So I think that it varies. So our schedule follows the academic year. So I would say leading up to when all of you guys come back to campus in the fall, we are scurrying behind the scenes, getting all of the exhibitions up and ready. We've been preparing for them coming, you know, writing labels and having publications made for them. So we're working behind the scenes to get them ready to open the doors. Then once the doors are open for the semester, we're concentrating more on programming and having the campus engage with the exhibitions that we have. So creating opportunities with professors or students to come and use the collection or use the exhibitions is really a big goal while we have the doors open. Then during the winter break, when we close again, we switch everything over and we have new exhibitions coming in the spring. So it's kind of a roller coaster. It ebbs and flows. Yeah.
When I first been in the Phillips Museum of Art, it was like so big. I thought that there is a little place there, but when I entered the place, it was such a big place, and you have so many different topics about everything, and I was so admired by the works that you did.
Well, thanks. Yeah, I think that there's a misconception that when you walk by the front doors, it's just that little room, but we go 3 floors down. So we have storage on the basement level, and offices, and then galleries on the 2 other floors. So there is a lot to see.
And people should see that. And how do you balance the art aspects of the museum's programming?
So as far as like exhibitions and how do we choose them?
Yeah.
So what we try to do is really find some exhibitions or combinations of our permanent collection that we put together that complement things that are being taught on campus. So we plan about 3 to 4 years out. We have shows booked. So it's not as easy to pivot on maybe a current event. We try to leave some space in the schedules for things that feel more immediate. But for the most part, we have exhibitions that are planned that we know multiple different disciplines here on campus could utilize. So right now we have an abstract art exhibition and you could say, oh, it's more leaning towards maybe studio art or art history, but really her inspiration comes from the Hubble telescope. And so she's talking about a much broader discipline than maybe the art canon that you normally would have. So that's...
What's the Hubble telescope?
So it takes pictures in space. So she was really inspired by the pictures of galaxies, other galaxies, and that's what she's sort of representing through her artwork.
So good. Actually, when I was a child, I always like drawing the galaxies because I love this view too.
Yes. Yeah. We have to come over and see it.
Yeah, why not? And what are some of the challenges you have encountered in managing a museum, especially in an academic setting like F&M College?
So I would say this is the first time I had worked in academia. I'm coming up on 10 years this month being here in different capacities. But an academic museum is very different than other museums I have worked in before. And I would say it's so much better because it's so much more engaging and you're able to, as a student or a researcher coming, work directly with materials. So when I first came here, I was like, wait, we let people touch things, and with proper training and, being mindful about what you're working with, it can be this transformative experience to be able to hold something in your hand and study it and it's not behind glass. So it was a challenge at first for me to wrap my head around the differences. And I would say, really trying to find engaging material for a range of ages. So I think that can be a challenge in any museum. But a lot of our permanent collection has to do with things that are maybe outdated, household things that feel stiff or regional in nature that, engaging them and creating some different stories that go with them to have students that are coming in from all over the world to be interested in them.
Yeah, actually in general museums people come and go, but in here, I think you have chance to talk students that you see every day, and it is a good thing. Like you can make brainstorming, you can think about something like your exhibitions, and it's good actually. And I have a question: did you break anything important like while working before in your life?
So this is what I will say. I don't knock on like every piece of wood. I think the more you handle things, the more possibility there is that something might happen. We have not had any issues with students or anyone handling objects. Everyone's really always very careful. So we've been very fortunate in that. I have heard stories though of museum professionals that work in, the biggest institutions have a horror story of things happening that it's just happens sometimes.
What if one student came to the Phillips Museum of Art and broke something? What happens?
We would have a conservator. So they have, thankfully we have conservators that we work with if there's something that needs to be addressed or fixed, or if something were to happen, we would be able to get it fixed.
But be careful, don't break something, please.
And I will say this, having students work with the exhibitions and collections and us getting to work together, I have been so inspired by the insights that students are bringing to the exhibitions, and they just really help me think about pieces in very different ways.
Also, when you're working like in this topics, art, science, it's a good thing you have people to talk about and like in a museum. You ask a question about a drawing to us, and everyone has a different idea. People should see the other aspect of the on people.
Yeah, and I think that's right now we have an exhibition on personal perspectives in landscapes, and I think that's one of the galleries that we went through, and we have little questions that are posed to the viewer dealing with the artwork that it's so fascinating how different the answers can vary, because you bring your own experiences to the interpretation of the art, and everybody is right. Everybody can bring a different perspective.
Yeah, definitely. And what is your favorite exhibit or event you have planned at the museum?
A favorite?
Yeah. You can think about it. Sometimes it is hard to choose something.
Yeah, it is hard to choose just one favorite. I would say one of my favorites is up right now, and it has to do with material culture. So we try to take a little bit different stance with this. We have objects that are part of our permanent collection, but we've taken them apart. So we want you to be able to see how things are made. So how ceramics are made here in this area, how furniture is put together, how we get material, and how that's made. So for me, telling the story of how something comes together really is fascinating to me.
We can go to the other question.
Okay.
In what ways does the museum create meaningful connections between the students' body, faculty, and the broader Lancaster community?
So that is the really fun part about the museum, is because it's in the center of campus. It's really and located in the Steinman College Center. It's nice because there's always people coming and going and moving. And I think that having the programming that we have, which is open and free to everybody, we advertise it downtown. One of our most successful programs that we have right now is yoga.
I love yoga.
Oh my gosh. And the yoga in the galleries is great because you'll see in one space students, faculty, staff, and the community is coming. So it's just such a nice way of coming together and using the space and being surrounded by art. So that's really wonderful. But yeah, we engage a lot of local artists to come and talk and be a spotlight artist in our galleries. So that's another big part, and we bring a lot of artists in to do programming. So that's fun.
And students can meet with this artist.
Oh yeah, we encourage it. Yeah, that's the best part, is being able to, especially if you're an aspiring artist, being able to talk to someone who's practicing, it can be really helpful.
So anyone from Lancaster community can come and see whenever they want when the museum is open, right?
Absolutely, yes, yeah. And come to the programming. We do hands-on workshops. We just had a knitting workshop with some of our faculty members who have created these beautiful tempestry, is what they're called, and they track climate change in different parts of the world. And so we had bought little kits where we encouraged community members and students and everyone to come and knit together for a little while.
And I heard that the yoga at museum is happens every day, every week, right?
It does. Yeah.
When is the exact time? Maybe if
so it's on Tuesdays and Thursdays. There's different days of the week that we have it, but it's at 10:30 on Tuesdays and sometimes Thursdays. So you'll have to check our social media. We always post when the yoga is, and we'll send out emails too.
And what is the name of the exact username of Phillips Museum of Art?
On Instagram, it's at Phillips Museum.
Okay. Yeah. Are there any collaborations or partnerships with other institutions or artists that the museum is currently involved in? Actually, you answered a little bit to this question about the artists, but do you have any other collaborations with other institutions?
Yeah, so we actually lend quite a bit. We lend to museums right around here in the area. We worked closely with the Demuth, that's downtown, but we've also been partnering lately and hosting curators from the Pompidou in France, in Paris. And so we have an artist in our collection who is a former faculty member named Bill Hudson, who donated the majority of his collection to the Phillips Museum in F&M. And he is a world-renowned artist, and the center in Paris is doing an exhibition that we're hoping that he's included in some way. And so it's been really interesting working with them. We've also lent to Texas. In his hometown, they had an entire exhibition based on his work. So it's really fun, and we're always so happy to be able to share our collection with other institutions.
And also I noticed that like faculty staffs and students like very connected with this museum because people donate. It is hard to give someone to like share exhibit. You know, it is like valuable pieces, and they are giving to the Phillips Museum of Art, and I think they feel very connected to museum.
Yeah, I hope so. And you know, I feel like it's important when we have something that's someone has donated to us, that we're caring for and using, letting them know. Because I would want to know if some class was really using something. So I think that that's an important part of it too, is keeping those connections and stewarding the collections in a way that is engaging to everybody.
Coming to the personal and professional perspectives of you, how do you see the role of the art evolving in museums today?
So I think museums are a crucial part of a community. So they have a really huge responsibility to offer education and give voice to a lot of different communities, where it's a place that you can come and you can seek peace and you can trust the information. So I think that museums have become and are evolving into less of a space of maybe the elite, or maybe that's the best way to say it. And it's becoming a place where you can be creative and you can think outside the box. And I like to think that our museum isn't a place to be quiet and stuffy. It's a place to be active and engage with the things around you. So I think that the role of museums in communities now is evolving and changing, and is a very important center for that.
Also, I think that in Turkey it should change and evolve, because people see museums like boring places, and they don't aware of the importance of museums. Sometimes you can just go and think about the past artists, what they think about that, why they draw this picture like that. It is very important, and if you need a little bit inspiration for anything, I think museums are the good place.
Yeah, I'll say this, like, I think a lot of people can feel intimidated sometimes to go into a museum if you don't know how you want to talk about the art, or you just out of practice with it, or it's confusing. What I really feel proud of with our museum is we are not shy about giving information. So we have pretty long labels for a lot of our pieces, because I think it gives everybody a foundation to start a conversation. So everyone has some bit of information. We're interested in making it a teaching space and a learning space, rather than just having no labels on the walls and you have to interpret things yourself.
Yeah, definitely. Also, I believe that children should be engaged with the museums too.
Yeah, we've been hosting story time lately, which is in partnership with the Lancaster Public Library, and we had quite a few very cute kiddos coming through the museum this week, so that was fun.
It really affects this children's life and thinking ability, right?
I would say so, yeah, for sure. Being able to sort of see other cultures, expand the way that you're thinking. I think we could do that at any stage of our lives. Yeah.
Wow. And what advice would you give to students interested in museum work or in pursuing a career that merges art?
Do the internships. That, I mean, it's great to have that foundational knowledge, but the hands-on you can't replace. So as many internships and experiences that you can do working in the museum. We have around 20 student workers that we have over there every day, and so I could not encourage people enough that are interested in following this path to do the internships and the hands-on. Like, I mean, that's where you're going to learn really how things work. Yeah.
And how can students like find internships about art and or museums?
I mean, you could, just about every museum has some sort of internship program. But I would say look for a paid internship. Nearby, they're usually a lot in the summer, but make sure that you look ahead of time because deadlines sometimes are earlier than you anticipate to apply. Yeah, yeah.
Thank you so much. And could you share a project or initiative at the Phillips Museum that you are most proud of?
I would say most proud of, I think having it be a professional organization. So we're really following museum standards. We have important policies in place. We have everything in our collection is inventoried and in databases where we can find it and use it. And I think I'm really proud of our students who have helped so much with that sort of organization of the space. And there have been so many that are gone on to do work in museums that have been really successful. That is exciting. So I think that that's a lot of things to be proud of.
And I wonder that what are the main policies that every museum follow?
Main policies? So there's a bunch of different ways that museums have to take care of the objects. So if we're talking about maybe a collections policy, you have to follow very certain steps to bring objects into the collection. So it has to be a very official process. And then you have to follow certain standards to take care of the objects. So I would say you're not an owner of the objects, you are their caretaker for the time that you're there. So you're the person that is making sure that these objects are available in the future for someone else. So that's some of the policies, but there's a lot of policies about ethics in museums or safety. So if something horrible were to happen and there was an emergency in the museum, say a pipe burst and things got wet, what do you do? So there's a lot of those sorts of policies too that go into it.
But generally it's like taking care of a little baby, right?
or a lot of babies. Yeah.
And how can students, faculty, and community members get more involved with the Phillips Museum of Art?
Find us online. I mean, reach out and see all the programming that we have. We have something every single week. I would say our social media is probably the easiest way to find the information that you're looking for, but we're also very easy to find. Our doors are always open. So we're happy to answer questions and give access to the collection. Even when we're closed, we're there. So if students need access for something, just to reach out and see if we're able to help.
Okay. And the last question is, what is the next for the Phillips Museum of Art regarding vision and future projects?
So we're really excited about some of our upcoming exhibitions. Right now we have exhibitions with landscapes, photography and relationships that you find in photography. So that's really a fun exhibition. We've got, as I said, Anne Marchand, who is doing abstract work dealing with galaxies. And then our next semester that we have coming up, we've got a local artist who quilts and uses textiles to show the Susquehanna River, which is nearby, and they're stunning. We have global headwear, so it's going to be around 90 pieces of headwear from all around the world coming in, so I'm really excited.
I am excited too.
Yeah, I think that's going to be wonderful, and we're featuring another artist, Rebecca Stecco. She does paintbrush portraits, so she takes old discarded paintbrushes and is very inspired by old masters and the idea of labor, and so she puts people's portraits on the handles of the paintbrushes. So I think that's going to be really great too, and we're focusing on our permanent collection and talking about birds and how the iconography of birds has traveled through history and is shown in so many pieces of our permanent collection.
It's so interesting and
it's fun.
Yeah, students and everyone should come and see the Phillips Museum of Art.
Thank you. I agree.
Okay guys, today we learned so many things about Phillips Museum of Art, and thanks to Lindsay Marino. Thank you so much for being our guest.
It was so fun. Thanks so much for having us, and I hope I see you in the galleries.
See you. Of course, why not? Okay guys, take care. See you on the next podcast.